Hey, what's happening, everybody? Charles Maring here. Welcome to the Art Studio today. I want to talk a little bit about Micro Four Thirds today. Lumix's big announcement this week that they are going to build a flagship full-frame camera got a few people a little bit nervous about what is the fate of Micro Four Thirds. For those of us who love it especially, let's get into that together. I got a little bit of insight and a few thoughts. First, let's cut to that intro. So if you're like me and you fall in love with Micro Four Thirds, you don't want to see it go anywhere. I know I certainly don't want to see it go anywhere because it's become one of my favorite formats for photography. You know, truth is, it doesn't matter what we photograph things on. If I picked up a 1990s film camera and went out and photographed weddings and portraits, my clients don't need to worry because I've been there, done that. I can create amazing imagery on anything. But one of the cool parts of today's technology is what camera companies are doing to make our lives cooler, make them easier, allow us to do new things, offer new products to clients. And the Micro Four Thirds series of cameras certainly did that for my business. But let's talk about that announcement real quick, just give you a glimpse in case you missed it. Yes, Lumix announced a beautiful new flagship camera is going to be made. There's actually two new cameras. One is going to be a full-frame camera called the Lumix S1 at 24 megapixels. Here we're seeing the Lumix S1R, which will be a 47 megapixel camera. Beauty of these is they've already announced that they're going to include a lot of the technology, if not all of it, that's in our Micro Four Thirds systems. One of the biggest things, 4K 60p video, industry leading, as well as industry-leading 5-axis dual image stabilization. Man, that is a beautiful thing because those are the two things that I absolutely have come to rely on and love about my Micro Four Thirds systems. With that said, I got a few comments in my last video stating, oh, what's going to happen to Micro Four Thirds now? I'm all invested. I reached out to some of the executives at Panasonic Lumix. I am a Lumix Global Ambassador, so is my wife as well. And of course, we were wondering that ourselves. So we reached out to them and they said, absolutely not. Micro Four Thirds is here to stay. We assure you of that. And I believe them, and I believe them because of a couple of different things, which we'll talk about. Let's go to that conference again. Here's what I heard.
Full frame and Micro Four Thirds will coexist based on the usage and application. Micro Four Thirds has the advantage of mobility and high-speed response, so it can be used for every category of photography and videography.
So yeah, what I heard was Micro Four Thirds and full frame are going to coexist together and live together in harmony, grow together as well. And I believe it. And the reason I believe it is because I've given speeches all over the world talking about this technology, talking about Micro Four Thirds. And I would go in, and I photograph a lot of celebrity weddings around the world and celebrity portraits, magazine work, so on and so forth. And I would go out and give a speech, and I'd have a slideshow and show videos and all that we do, and have people come up to me afterwards and say, I didn't know that Lumix had a full frame camera. And I go, no, none of that's full frame. They're like, but the depth of field was so beautiful. I'm like, yeah, because I'm using prime lenses and this can do some gorgeous tight depth of field. And as soon as they hear though that it's not full frame, they go, oh, okay, and you know, kind of walk away. And what I learned was that there's so much industry hype around what full frame is. And I think a lot of people, they want full frame because it's hyped up so much, but they don't really know what they're gaining in terms of benefits. And then conversely, they don't know what they would gain in Micro Four Thirds when it comes to benefits as well. And I think there's a balance there. You know, full frame has that beautiful, incredible tight depth of field, beautiful bokeh on things. And you gain a stop or two of low light, but you know, if you're shooting professional photographs, to be quite honest with you, it doesn't matter what I shoot with. I could go out with a 90s film camera and create the same imagery I'm creating today in terms of beauty with my clients who'd be blown away with because I know what I'm doing. I've been there, done that. What's beautiful about this technology is it just gives us so much more that we can do. Videos and be able to hand hold long lenses and just so much more. So there's a balance to be had there. And let's talk about how I would travel if I'm working micro four thirds. If I worked full frame, I'd have a couple of beautiful benefits, but I would have a camera bag, let's say this, and I would fit maybe two lenses in it, a 24-70 and a 70-200 2.8, maybe a prime. That'd be about all I could fit in here. Maybe another prime, but it would be pushing it. But when I work micro four thirds, it opens up other benefits. Now let's just dig into the bag. Here I have a 25-1.4. It's equivalent to a 50-1.4 in terms of focal length, not necessarily look, but focal length. Here I have a 30mm 2.8 macro. Here's my little 12-35, a 24-70 equivalent. Here I have my 100-300, which is a 200, what am I saying? 100, yeah, 200-600 equivalent for those long reaches. Turns out I have more. Look at that. I have an 8-18, another beautiful wide angle zoom. Oh, I want super incredible depth of field. 42.5 1.2, equivalent in length to a 85-1.2 full frame. Oh my gosh. Turns out I have a whole nother camera system for backup with a 35-100 2.8 equivalent to a 70-200 all in one bag. So, you know, when I make my decisions on how am I going to photograph things, how am I going to travel, well, I would like to have this much creativity in my mind at my fingertips, not just a couple of lenses. And so I just see that there's a lot of benefits to micro four thirds. And why I fell in love with the system, I did not move over to Lumix for micro four thirds though. I moved over to Lumix because I had a full closet of Canon lenses, two of just about everything under 300mm. Lots of bodies to choose from, C100s to boot for video, and I loved them. I felt like I was living the high life. But then I picked up a Lumix GH4 one day and went out and spent some time with it, and I realized, wait a second, I don't have to carry all these DSLRs and then all these cinema cameras and all these giant lenses and a suitcase and an assistant and all of these things. I could do a lot more with less. And so the GH4 made me realize with their 4K video, I kind of want to move that way. And I bought a couple of them, ended up buying more, ended up buying in. And then I just found myself doing so much work on micro four thirds that I'm like, why do I want all these old cameras that are not innovative in any way? And so I just felt like I wanted to move forward with innovation. Now, arguably, I would say that Lumix is the most innovative camera company in the world. That's certainly arguable. But I believe that they're doing a great thing in terms of marketing here, because if they announce this full frame camera and they build the technology that is in their micro four thirds cameras into that full frame camera, they will no longer be saying, we build the best micro four thirds camera in the world. They'll be saying, we build the best camera in the world, period. The most spec'd out camera there is, arguably, of course. But I think that there's a lot of weight that comes with that. Now they'll be the big player in this field with cameras that are going to force others to actually innovate once again. And so we should all be thanking them for doing this, because it's going to push the ball forward and it's going to bring new technology to all of us as creators on all formats, which I think is incredibly important. So yes, I reached out to the players at B, and they all said micro four thirds is here to stay. I believe them. I see it from a marketing standpoint being incredibly important. And I know that because as I give speeches at camera stores around the country, I see people come in and they say, well, no full frame, I'm going to go look at Canon or Nikon or Sony or whatever. And then they get to the counter and they find themselves now being sold an APS-C style size sensor in a cheap little body, and then realizing, oh, but I can't do any low light photography in it. No, because it's a small sensor. Now you got to buy all the primes that are gigantic that make no sense with it either, because there's nothing focused on it being a full ecosystem. So I think it's actually kind of cool, because now we have an ecosystem around micro four thirds, all the lenses we could really ask for already, all the technology we could really ask for already, and now we're going to also have new technology that pushes everybody forward and forces everyone to innovate. So thank you, Panasonic, for taking the time to step up the game in this industry and create this new full frame camera. I think it's going to make a difference for all. So That's a wrap today, everybody. I hope this soothed some of you that had commented in my last video that Micro Four Thirds, what's going to happen with it? It's not going anywhere from my understanding. So appreciate you joining me. Have a great one, everyone. Take care.